Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in, being a part of the conversation. Folks, let's talk about what's happening in New York as New York State Congressman Santos has been called out on his lies. We're going to talk about the impact that it has, not just on New York politics, but just on our democracy in general. We're going to have that conversation. Also, let's talk about the Tory Lanez trial. Was this truly a miscarriage of justice? We're going to break it down for you, get some insight from our culture crew, Suzette Speaks, as she talks about the implications of the trial, not just on law, but also on the hip-hop community. And then let's talk a little bit about what's happening right now. Let me check this, folks. Ed Reed, the former Baltimore Ravens cornerback, he is now the head coach of Bethune Cookman College football. What does that actually mean? We'll have that conversation and a whole lot more. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. We got a lot to talk about today, folks, a lot to talk about. Big stories that we have been keeping our eyes on, and now we're saying, okay, we need to discuss them as these stories continue to develop. But here's the big story that's coming out of Washington and New York State, which is Congressman-elect George Santos has been called out on lies about embellishing his resume. Folks, it is not looking good for the newly elected congressman, who has said that he is a couple of things that have been certainly being questionable about his personal history. One is that he has lied about his work history, that he was an associate for Citigroup. Another lie is that he went to Farajii College. And then here's the kicker, folks. The man has even gone as far as to say that he is Jewish and he is a proud American Jew. That was a lie. Let me bring in our culture crew for today, Suzette Speaks, who is a TV host. You can check her out on YouTube. Also, she is a licensed attorney from the state of Florida, and we're always happy to have her on Wednesdays joining us for these conversations. Suzette, my sister, what is going on? Good afternoon. How you feeling this afternoon?
Hey, Farajii. Big up to the culture crew. Thank you for having me. Season's greetings, everybody. Yes, a juicy show ahead, indeed.
A juicy. First and foremost, I'm digging the dew.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Little Christmas. Hey. Switch up, right?
I'm digging.
305 in the building. Let's
go. Snap. Whenever we throwing up signs. Okay. 41032. All right, let me stop. Okay. So let's first talk about what's happening out of New York State, which has, reverberated down in Washington, D.C. Here is a congressman newly elected. He comes out of the LGBTQ community, and he made big political history as being the congressman for the 3rd Congressional District in New York, only to be called out on a number of big personal issues. One of the things, of course, is his resume saying, hey, he worked down on Wall Street. He was a part of the financial district. He worked for Citigroup. That's a lie. I need Maury Povich. Where's Maury Povich when you need him?
This was so shocking. I don't even know where to begin. Again, I never want to kind of gloat over people's, mishaps, but I think we want to be very transparent when it comes to the expectations of those who are supposed to hold the public's trust. I feel sorry for the people of this district who voted for someone who they thought was one person, but according to the New York Post and other reports now, seem to, in his words, embellish and some would just say outright fib on many parts of his resume. So imagine you are running for public office and you're saying that you've worked for Goldman Sachs. You've said that you have graduated from NYU and Baruch College, and it all turned out to be a non-truth. And my mom don't like when I say lie, so I want to say untruth. But it is such a shocking allegation, or now proven by the research of the New York Post and others, to show that, unfortunately, Republican U.S. Representative-elect out of New York, George Santos, has indeed fabricated a good deal of his resume. So it is, again, a shocking change of events. He took a district that was once held by a Democrat over and has now swung the balance in the U.S. House of Representatives in favor of the Republicans. So there are some implications to which, he must answer for, but he is holding strong. He's saying he's not leaving office until his 2-year term is over.
See this, here's where I have the problem at. This is the problem, because, bro, you already said that you made a lie. Let me just post this very quickly. This is why I have problems with people. Like, I don't know whether this is just human nature, or if this is just greed, or if this is just, your lust and thirst for power. But let me just share with you what that report said. This is coming from NBC News. And I want us to kind of key in on it. Take a look at this here, folks. This is what NBC News already said. Now, these are some of the details that we already shared with you. Bombshell investigation. It was published earlier this month, December 19. New York Times said it was unable to substantiate many of Santos' alleged qualifications, such as that he had worked for Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, and Baruch College. He graduated from Baruch. He made LGBTQ political history when he won the November race in New York's 3rd Congressional District, which covered parts of Long Island and Queens. Now, check this out, folks. He admitted to what he described as, quote-unquote, overstating and embellishing his qualifications in at least 3 interviews on Monday. Okay, this was this past Monday. He said a lot of people overstate in their resumes or twist a little bit. He said in the interview, he said, I'm not saying I'm not guilty of that. And he apologized in an interview with City and State New York, saying, did I embellish my resume? Yes, I did. And I'm sorry. And it shouldn't be done. He also said in the same breath, Suzette, that people do stupid things. And this is his word. He literally said, people do stupid things.
Sir.
Wait a minute, sir. Wait a minute. Hold up, bro. Hold up. You mean to tell me we all do stupid things? But that's not stupid. I don't put, hey, I graduated from Harvard.
It's willful. It is with premeditation. It's not by accident, sir. Please stop, making this even worse. He has actually taken down his original campaign website, which had all this information on there, sir. People saw that. It was you in print, black and white, saying that you had done things that you had not. Now, when we say embellishment, now I am not advocating for it, Farajii, but people have put, they were a director or a supervisor and they know they was a team lead and they had to, make it sound a little better for the position that they are trying to obtain. But this is not that. This is whole entire jobs. You have presented yourself to the voters as if you were this kind of Wall Street phenom banker that had worked at Citigroup and had worked at Goldman Sachs and these other big banks, that you had owned all this real estate, which was not true. It kind of has just gotten worse and worse as he continues to speak about it. I think he is mistaken if he thinks he can just kind of brush it under the rug by saying, I'm sorry, I have made this tiny error of embellishing, my resume. I think, even Stevie Wonder could see this is not what's going on here. It is outright down, home, bald face, how they old folks used to say it, lie, sir. So whether there will be an investigation, I know we haven't heard from Republican leadership. They've been rather quiet on this bit of newly released information. Even there are some reports, Raji, that said that there are those allegedly within the Republican leadership ranks that knew about it while he was still running. Again, he hasn't even been sworn in. That's not until January. But you have those like a House leader, Jeffries, who is calling for even an ethics investigation at the very least. Whether it will stop him from taking office is yet to be seen. But there are some questions that he really needs to answer and kind of, stop this double speak about being Jew-ish. And I don't know if you have that quote, but there's some terrible kind of, round robin ways of addressing this that are quite frankly disgusting.
Let me tell you, I was definitely going to address that one. The fact that he claimed himself to be a proud American Jew, And then in another interview said that, he was a Catholic, and that he said, well, the reason I said I was Jewish because my mom is from Ukraine and she had Jewish roots. And so I'm Jewish.
Sir.
So let me ask y'all a question. Let me just throw this out there. Is the Anti-Defamation League about to come out at him for claiming to be Jewish? Are we going to see the Jewish response to this that we've seen when it comes to black men and talking about certain things that the Jewish community or certain folks in the Jewish community may not be happy about? Are we going to see that same backfire, that same uproar, that a man like Santos can claim Judaism?
It's reckless.
Just straight lying about it.
It's
Are we
quite
going to
reckless.
see? See, this is the sad part about this. And I want to just throw this out there because when we got to take a quick pause. But the sad part of the thing about this is that you said this point, Suzette. People believed you, bro. That's why they elected you for office. And now you come back and then to have the audacity, the hubris, and the arrogance to say, I'm not stepping down until I complete my first term. Like, I lied, y'all deal with it. Let me move on with doing the job. Bro, if you lied about who you are and what you did and where you come from, how the hell are we expect you to believe that you won't lie about policy and other important matters that affect all of the people? Please, please, please. Look, we got to take a quick pause, Suzette. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. We'll check in with our online culture crew, get some comments from there. And folks, we're just getting started. Stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, we have been talking about the lies of Congressman-elect George Santos, who is the congressman for New York's 3rd Congressional District, and talking about the impact that the lies have made as the congressman-elect has lied about every place from where he worked, what college he went to, even lied about his lineage, saying he's Jewish. Let's go back to our culture crew member for the day, Suzette Speaks, to give us continue the conversation. I don't know which lie, if there is a priority of lies. I don't know if one lie, Suzette, trumps another lie, right? But the point is that it's hard for me to believe that a person who's running on, in a state like New York, an important state for both parties, who happens, like you mentioned earlier, who wins in a primarily Democratic space, right? New York's 3rd Congressional District, that they didn't check the background.
This is crazy.
Like who was like who just went along to get along? You know what I mean? Like you didn't check the man's background.
Yeah, no, it seems like, and I've seen many people in the comments, hey, everybody, say, you know, for your own job, you have to take a general background check. You have to do general, you know, information gathering, whether you hire someone at, you know, a private corporation or a government job. This is just a normal part of vetting people. But unfortunately, this gentleman, before he was slated as a candidate, wasn't really truly vetted. I also read an article today that stated that his opponent spent all this money on consultants, and nobody in that consultant class did their homework to kind of research this gentleman at the same time. So there were failures on multiple levels when it comes to trying to field somebody that really is worthy of the public trust. I think what has added insult to injury is the amount of kind of denialism, and you guys just look the other way, forget about it. I'm going to do a good job, and I will, you know, continue to represent the folks of my district, you know, wholeheartedly, and they can trust me now. And I think, you know, everyone who is kind of an observer, whether you live within this gentleman's district or you just care about, you know, the American political system, is just worried about what kind of precedents this set. We know that, you know, unfortunately, our politics has taken a crazier turn. Of course, there's always been kind of deceit in politics to one degree or another. But since the election of former President Trump and others who have put out so much fabricating information or fabricated information that we are now almost immune to it, or seemingly or being kind of encouraged to just, again, accept this. He's a human being. No, this has to be called out. This has to be addressed. And maybe ultimately we'll end up in a committee, or maybe a House committee will investigate what happened here. But it's not something that we should just sweep under the rug and pretend as if, okay, just kidding. This is, you know, this is someone who is being held to a higher standard for good reason. You are going to represent hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S. House of Representatives. Like, they should know they can trust who you say you are, so that you can bring the people's business to the House. Unfortunately, there's just so many more questions, and we, you know, maybe we'll uncover more. Who knows?
That is disturbing. That is disturbing, to say the least, Suzette. It's disturbing to the fact that, you know, people have to deal with this. Like in 2022, this is how our political parties, this is where our political system has gone to, that you can make a bold-faced lie. You can lie about a lot of different things, important things, things that matter when it comes to your ability to serve. And then you want to stand in front of the American people. You want to stand in front of the people that voted you in office and say, deal with it.
Yeah, I just embellished.
And that's the part that gets me. It's like, yeah, I lied. Deal with it.
Yeah, no.
And it's like, bro, you are, we're in a space right now that people are so sick and tired of politics as it is right now. It's become so toxic and dehumanizing and insulting. We're at a place right now. And you know, you keep telling people, hey, here's my crap. Y'all deal with my crap. And then guess what? Y'all keep paying me. Y'all keep supporting me. Y'all keep me in power. But you deal with the bullshit that I bring to the table.
Yeah.
And guess what? Somebody is going to turn and get violent. People are not going to take this level of quote unquote political representation anymore. It's just not going to happen. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. I want to take a couple of comments from our online culture crew. Janelle, you checked in and said a Jewish publication has already called him out on his fake lineage. He hasn't said anything hateful yet. Well, I thought you can't claim to be Jewish if you're not Jewish.
Like, yeah, no, it was a way to garner support that he was undeserving of. So he's misleading people. There are folks that will donate to you or support you in other ways based on their belief, based on what you're saying to them. And I think there was also like a Republican Jewish, maybe a caucus, who has also said he's not welcome to join them. But yeah, it is a deep deceit that we can't understate. Like, oh, what's the harm? Everyone does it. No, this is a serious allegation. And again, if just picture someone else saying these same things, you wouldn't get away with it. And that's why I'm a little bit disappointed that we haven't heard more from the Republican side. And obviously we know why, because they need that vote. But if it was a Democrat that did this, we wouldn't hear the end of it from, soon to be Speaker McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy or any other leadership in the Republican side. So it is a little bit disappointing that something like this, that you can clearly see it from a nonpartisan lens, this is wrong. This is ethically wrong. Again, whether he's broken a law, we'll see. If there is anything that maybe New York State can prosecute or anything like that. But for right now, it's kind of in the hands of his colleagues to see if there are ways that he can be either sanctioned or investigated so that this does not happen again.
Let me just tell you, let's put this in another context here. Let's look at the fact that this being the election cycle, this election cycle probably brought more crazies to the ballot box than we probably want to believe. But when you look at a person like a George Santos, when you look at a person like a Herschel Walker, should we start to create a standard vetting system for those individuals who are running to become candidates in this government? There doesn't seem to be a vetting system that the American people can put their trust and confidence behind at this point, Suzette. And that's one of the things I think we need to look at, is that who's vetting these people?
Not the parties.
Like all you got to do is be of a certain age and breathe. I mean,
basically. And then what makes me sad, Farajii, is there are some really good people who have some stains on their record, who did some things when they were younger, who were afraid to kind of step out there and don't want to get in politics because they know maybe past real indiscretion as teens, as young adults will come out. So you have people who have matured past those things, become, their true selves and developed as human beings, but now they're afraid to step into the political arena because of what might quote unquote come out. And then you have other people, as we have seen, as you just mentioned, with the likes of Herschel Walker and this gentleman, Republican George Santos, Rep-elect George Santos, now kind of making the bar even lower so that there are people that, step forward, but wholeheartedly fabricate parts of their histories so that you don't even know who you're voting for. It's wrong. Whether it's illegal is one thing, but ethically it's wrong. And so it has to be addressed, I think, from the candidate level where the parties are actually doing some of the homework. But yeah, it's quite shocking. And I hope, there's something that the parties is really who it boils down to, who select who gets fielded, or people can run on their own. But it's difficult for us to kind of just keep this as the status quo.
Hey, Suzette, I'm laughing because you think that the parties are going to do a checks and balance? Like they let this guy get all the way to this point. So
voters, but again, it's
checks and balance. What is it? I mean, and look, like I'm saying, in this, folks might say, "Oh, you bashing the GOP." These are GOP people. I'm talking about Herschel Walker. Hell, we could even look at. We don't have to just look at this cycle. Just look at the types of individuals. I'm not even talking about party affiliation, but I'm talking about the quality of character of like a Marjorie Taylor Greene and other individuals who are sitting in the GOP. And you're wondering, and I'm wondering, and folks are wondering, like, how the hell did you get here? You know what I mean? Like, who let you in the door? Who allowed you to have a seat at the table in the room? And guess what? The GOP just lets it ride. Oh, well, it is what it is. We're not going to talk about the biggest liar, Trump himself.
I think he changed the game. His example changed the game.
So it changed the game. Now look, here's what all politicians lie. But generally that happens when you get in office.
It's not about them as who they are as people though. Like substantively, I don't want you to tell me that you went to school, you've done all this other stuff.
Bro, you can't even tell me where you went to school.
Like he could have just said who he was. Like
he said really go to school. What, he went to a community college or something?
He did. He said he never graduated. Now he admits from a school of higher learning. I think he said. Hold on,
Suzette. Hold on, Suzette. He never graduated from college.
No. and put 2 on the resume on the website. Like, it's kind of like, sir. And again, he didn't need to just be upfront. But again, people feel like, they want to be portrayed as this big businessman with this, wonderful resume, et cetera, et cetera. But it backfired. And I just think, like, I wonder if he thought he would get away with it. I'm just like, did he not expect anybody to ask any questions? And again, I said New York Post, it was New York Times that did the research, pardon me there, that easily called the colleges and was like, nope, at that year, we never found anybody, no record of anyone attending our college or graduating with that name. It wasn't really that, I won't say that deep, but they had to research. But yeah, it's frightening. Like I said, he as one individual needs to kind of make amends or be held accountable to some certain degrees so that this does not come up again or become, the norm for people running for office thinking that they can just make stuff up and then get elected and say, oh, sorry, that's not really what I did. Sorry. No, we need to kind of draw a line.
Actually, it would have been better if he saying, look, I didn't go to school, but I'm qualified myself. And, my ideas are strong enough that the people of this district thought that I would be the best person. Like, that is a much more compelling narrative that, look, I didn't even go to college. Maybe it's compelling. I don't know. But the fact is that you lied about certain things. And I think, as we wrap up, you lied about certain things. And again, I'm going back to the insult. I hope the people of the 3rd Congressional District in New York just run his ass out. You can, and look, let me tell you, I know there's legal takes. I know there's legal procedures that you can take. And, some folks are saying, oh, he should be, impeached and quote unquote. I'm talking about, we might have to get to the point, Suzette, where we just, if some blatant disrespect of that magnitude, the people approach him because you know where they are. You got to come out the house.
Farajii, I'm not for the jungle justice, Farajii. I'm not going to go in this. I'm not going out.
I'm not saying, look, I'm not, look. No, I'm saying, here's what I'm saying. You want to play around with leadership and people's lives in this day and time, guess what? You're going to have to tell me face to face. And here in Los Angeles, that councilman who talk bad about black folks, guess what? Everywhere he go, he running up against black and Latino folks.
Yeah.
Angelinos are like, we're not taking this.
Y'all don't mess around. Y'all show up in their office
everywhere that Joker go. He can't get everywhere he go. He's met with somebody. That's what you got to do sometimes. You ain't got to put your hands on them.
Right.
But you got to damn sure let him know, man, look.
You answer to us.
I'm here all day. I can keep doing this all day, sir.
No, it's terrible. Like I said, I'm sure there is someone going through his filings. That's a lot of where politicians sometimes get in trouble. There's an extensive amount of paperwork, again, that deters a lot of good people from getting into public service that he has to file. Now, if he lied on some of those papers, congressional filings or state elections filings that he had to make full disclosures on, then there may be some legal ramifications for what he said. But right now, on the website being a lie, it's wrong. But again, did he break a law? We're uncertain, but I'm sure there are people combing through what he's filed officially on his paperwork to see if there's some fabrications there as well.
All I gotta say is we wrap up. If he was black, would this?
He would be gone. Okay, I'm just sorry. Like, they'd find a way. Sorry, they find a way already. They find a way.
They will go through all of that. And be like,
special election.
Right? Special election. All right, look, we got to take a quick pause when we come forward, folks. Let's talk about Tory Lanez and the trial that has rocked the hip hop community. Was it a true miscarriage of justice as the hip hop star was charged and found guilty of 3 felony counts? We'll continue we'll have that conversation up next. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
as an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, let's talk about what's happening in the hip-hop community as the community is still reeling from the guilty verdict of hip-hop singer and rapper Tory Lanez. This is the gentleman who was in the car at the time that he, Megan Thee Stallion, and other folks were in the car, where 5 shots were heard. And unfortunately, Megan Thee Stallion was struck by one of the bullets. Even though she was not struck seriously, did not cause any serious injury. But this trial was about his possession of a firearm. This trial was about the fact of how what happened on that fateful night just a couple of years ago, where the two were leaving a party. And as a result of this verdict, where Tory Lanez was found guilty of 3 felony charges, the hip-hop community has been broken up. We're from Team Tory to Team Megan to let's get to the truth. And so we've been keeping our eyes on the situation. And I want to bring back my Culture Crew member today, Suzette Speaks, to give us some insight on what she thought about this trial, not just as a person that is familiar with the hip hop music and hip hop culture, but also as an attorney to give us some insight on both sides of the conversation. Suzette, we talked about this when the trial was first kicking off. Now that the trial has ended, 3 felony charges against Tory Lanez. There have been some key moments and some key pieces of information that was shared throughout this whole situation. One is, I think people were looking at who actually fired the gun. There was a lot of discrepancy saying that Megan's former best friend, who was in the vehicle with her, said that she saw somebody else shoot the gun. I mean, there was just a lot of confusion around this case. But along with those developments and those moments, the trial really became this trial about Megan Thee Stallion more so than I think about Tory Lanez, about her credibility was being questioned, about the lack of respect that Black men have for Black women. I mean, it became something very, very different than just a trial about somebody shooting a gun. What's your take on this verdict?
Well, there are several observations. Thank you, Farajii, for kind of laying that out there. Well, first and foremost, as an attorney, I look at where are the critical, testimonial, or written statements that had probably the most influence on the jury. And before I do that, we have to think about the standard of proof that had to be shown in this trial, which is beyond the reasonable doubt in the United States when it comes to criminal charges. It's the prosecutor's burden to prove the allegations beyond a reasonable doubt. And in this case, we saw that among the jury of his peers, 12 jurors, 7 women, 5 men, it was up to the prosecutors to place in front of that jury enough evidence to show them that they were indeed making the correct judgment for seeing that these three charges were, the standards for these three charges were in fact met. So I think sometimes when people are looking at what they're seeing on TV or the replay on social media, you have to remember that the evidence case file is broader than just witness testimony, right? So all the statements that were given right after and back in 2020, this happened in that fateful post Kylie Jenner party that, you know, they rode away from. People were giving statements right then and there that were also a part of the court record. So I saw a lot of commentary on social media. And again, just the reactions, we can go into some depth about, you know, why there was so much anti-Megan Thee Stallion, which I say sentiment. And there was some in support of her as well. But when I look at what people kind of were making claims against, like the testimony being shaky and people weren't able to remember, there were lots of evidence collected in and around the incident as it was happening. So I think sometimes we forget, the fact that Mr. Lanez himself didn't testify. That sends a message to the jury. You had the bodyguard that was supposed to testify as well disappear. There was a lot of kind of holes that were left open. If you were going to try to prove that someone else did this, there were a lot of unanswered questions. And I think the prosecutor did an obviously adequate job of saying beyond a reasonable doubt, this is the person that shot this weapon. Again, we're going to have fans who are disagreeing with this. But again, show me your evidence. And again, if you have 4 people in a car and several of them have already testified closer to the events that it was Mr. Lanez, and then you have others who are not found or not, you know, or pleading the fifth at this time, or all of a sudden their memory is foggy. The credibility of witnesses is also taken into account when jurors are weighing the evidence. So there was a lot of questions I saw posted on social media, or a lot of assertions made on social media that I was kind of disagreeing with, because I'm saying, you know, they're not looking at, again, the totality of the evidence in the case file, not just the testimony that we saw, or at least was reproduced to us because there were no cameras in this courtroom. But yeah, the jurors, based on the questions that they had at the end of the trial as well, it was they were asking the judge things about, like, what did willful intent means? They kind of already, that kind of implied that they said, you did it, but was it willful or not? Sorry if my internet is up a little bit there, but yes, but there were a lot of interesting points there.
If there are a lot of them, let me just break it down in terms of the charges that he was the felony counts that he was charged with. He pleaded not guilty to assault with an a semi-automatic firearm, carrying a loaded unregistered firearm in a vehicle, and discharge of a firearm with gross negligence. According to the prosecutors, the jury convicted him on all 3 counts. I've seen a number of different numbers in terms of sentences that he could be sentenced up to 23, and then some people say up to 30 years. What is for those 3 counts? What is he possibly looking at? And let's not forget, he could be deported back to Canada.
Yes,
which people act like is not a civilized country.
Yeah, no, people like back to Canada.
Canada. Oh boy. You're gonna need some help. Like,
no, listen, they got free healthcare over there.
This is Toronto. This is where he's from, folks. Did we lose Suzette? Look like we lost Suzette. Look, I want to go take let me get a couple of Culture Crew comments, folks. I want to hear your take on this, and then we'll work to bring my sister Suzette Speaks back into the discussion. Janice, you said if he gets 23 years, I believe that is not correct. Murders don't even get that much time. Yeah, I see what you're saying, and it's not. Look, folks, y'all know how the game go. He's a high profile individual. He's an artist, right? He has a lot of fame. He has some money. They're going to try to make an example of him. They're going to try to make an example and send a message to the hip hop community, Janice. So if it's like you, you know, it's you know how the situation go. I don't think he's going to get the full time. I don't even think he's going to get deported. I think he might get some minor time. But you know, I'm not surprised that they threw the book at him for such a situation like this. Let me go to Lana. Lana checked in. Lana, my sister, you say everything about this story did not warrant 30 years. I question the verdict. I understand. There have been so many different elements of this story, Lana, for me that I didn't. At first, I thought I had a handle on what happened, but then the best friend, the bodyguard, even Meg herself, there were just so many different conflicting stories that to actually what happened. But we know that he had the gun. We know that it was fire. But what happened that led up to that moment, those moments, that's the big thing. So I get to you on that one. Let me see here. Let me go to Janae. Janae, you checked in and said, look, men and guns, nothing else to say. The masculine toxicity is on 10. The verdict was about him having a gun, facts. His negligence, facts, not about shooting Megan. So he had a gun and was found guilty with the gun. Yeah. The charges, I'm going back to it. The charges that he was found guilty of was not even attempted murder. It was not first degree. It wasn't first degree murder. It wasn't attempted murder. It wasn't manslaughter. It was around the possession of a firearm, folks. So, and I think, Janae, I'm glad that you brought that point up into this situation. And let me get one more. Kalia, you checked in. Kalia Green, you said he needs to be humble. He's arrogant and has a history of violence. I don't follow Tory. So Kalia, if that's the way he's been presenting himself, you know, God has a hell of a way to humble us all, right? I'm just saying. There are so many different situations where we see men of power, men of fame and influence and all of those things. They walk the earth. And you know, I actually heard that, Khalil, that people say that, you know what, this is a humbling situation. My hope is that he finds that he can, you know, take some time for himself, reevaluate how he is and what's going on with his life. Not even think about his career at this particular moment, but just what's going on with his life, and then try to work to get himself back on track. Now, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll reconnect with my sister Suzette. Let's also talk about the fact that his father was another key player in this trial. His father's trying to create the narrative around the situation, saying that Tory was being railroaded by the criminal justice system, and even is going as far as to say that Jay-Z was responsible. Come on, man. Come on, man. Look, we'll have that conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
Some An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the conversation. We've been talking about Tory Lanez, the trial that has rocked the hip-hop community, and asking the question, was this truly a miscarriage of justice? Now we're checking back in with my sister Suzette Speaks, who is a TV host and is a certified board attorney, checking in from Miami, Florida. So Suzette, when we look at this situation with Tory, like, you know, you brought up some pieces of you know, the friends. You talked about the charges themselves, but I want to shift gears and take a look at this father figure. Like the father is trying to present this narrative that Tory is being railroaded by the system. He went even as far as to say that, you know, he was going to blame Jay-Z. Take a look at this, folks. This is actually what's happening as a result of this verdict. There's been a petition that's been put out. That's got a few thousand folks that are saying that Tory needs a new trial, that there needs to be an appeal ASAP. But I want to, you know, well, first, let me go to what the father talked about. The father simply said that Rock Nation, he pointed out that the management of Megan Thee Stallion, Rock Nation, who manages Megan, the people around her, and Jay-Z are all responsible for railroading his son into this situation. What is going on? Like, sir, your son had a gun. Your son, apparently, if your son thought that he was that innocent, why didn't your son take the stand? Why didn't your son try to clear his own name? Like, why are there still these gaping holes as to what happened? Like, if the prosecutor is able to take advantage of all of these things that are supposed to work in your son's favor, why didn't they work in your son's favor? Why wasn't that part of the story being told? I don't understand the father. I get it. Your son is in a situation that is deep situation, but is it really you being railroaded and a miscarriage of justice?
No, I'm sorry. Like, was Jay-Z in the car that night, and did Jay-Z pull a trigger, and did Jay-Z step out?
He bringing Hove into it like he was there. That's like, the crazy part is
territorial distraction. What are you talking about?
It's like me working for Black Star. I'm doing some stuff crazy. Then they talking about, and see, that's what Roland was behind Farajii.
Yeah, it's kind of silly. I just find it so far. Understand? Is he trying to? I understand that he's upset, and I saw the rant, and I saw, you know, the emotion. You know, once you hear that guilty verdict, and you know your son is probably going to be in jail for however long, you're really disturbed by it. And as a father, you're protective, and I get it. That high emotion of just hearing the verdict and stepping outside, and the cameras in your face, and you going off. It was very. I was more empathetic to his emotional state, but based on the substance of what he was offering, you know, that Rock Nation has sacrificed this a young man because of, you know, their greed, or, you know, to utilize him as a sacrificial lamb for what? He had his own decision making that night. He was the person that was present, and there was so much evidence that said it was him, and not enough that didn't say it wasn't him. I know there again is this kind of what should I say, this curiousness about, well, something else could have happened. Look at the evidence. Look at the evidence. Like, what could have happened? It's not the same. And I just feel like people are very kind of quick to I don't know, want to defend someone based on their desire to protect a Black man or protect a Black woman. But we really just got to search out facts in these cases and kind of see where the evidence lies. But the petition doesn't mean anything. The judge is going to sentence. We're going to see, you know, maybe he'll testify or take the stand during the sentencing phase, during that hearing. But him not taking the stand himself maybe hurt him in the eyes of the jury. So again, I mean, people have kind of extrapolated a lot from what you know, she symbolizes as a Black woman and him as a Black man. This is a crime of violence that took place between two people on one set night. And sometimes I think we try to make it too much of a big symbolism. It was a crime committed against Megan, not that she caused, right? And that someone shooting at you is a crime, whether negligently, whether willfully, right? That's why they didn't go for the attempted murder. They could not prove that. That's a higher standard to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. But what they could prove, and they have, is that it was negligent for you to be shooting recklessly, right? Based on what the evidence showed. So there was a lot there that I think sometimes we ignored or try to overstate these other outside influence of Rock Nation. And he's not paying the judge. He's not, there's no,
I mean,
that influence is really overstated, sir. And your son's behavior is what was being judged and unfortunately, you know, was found guilty of. So like, sometimes the distractions, you got to point the figure where, you know, the responsibility lies.
Hey, Suzette, do you think Tory should have taken a stand?
Not if he wasn't gonna have nothing to say that was gonna tell him. That's why he didn't do it. I'm like, that's why you didn't take no stand. I'm a jury. I'm interpreting. You have a right not to, you know, self-incrimination,
right?
Fifth Amendment right, but it speaks volumes when nobody else had no concrete recollection of anyone else pulling that trigger. Right.
And that's how I felt. Like, bro, why wouldn't you take the stand and try to clear your name? Because it makes you look guilty.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a protective mechanism of our court of law that you shouldn't have to say anything. Right? You're presumed innocent until proven guilty. But there were, again, I don't think that many holes, but the other witnesses, other parts of the evidentiary file that filled in the gaps where people are saying, oh, no one said it was him. Who else could it have been, y'all? Who else? Magic bullet doesn't just show up. Someone who had motive, who had opportunity, who, again, at the time when witness statements were taken, several people said, yes, it was him. All of a sudden, there's a change up. All of a sudden, people have disappeared, not showing up. And we're going to see if there was any witness tampering. I'm sure that'll be investigated. You can't not show up, guys, when you've been subpoenaed, right? So there's a lot of questions, perhaps, but enough evidence was presented for this jury to be able to find that, yep, he's culpable. So we got to be careful with, you know, trying to find these kind of outlandish, far off, you know, scapegoats so that this person is not being held responsible for his behavior. You know, I'd be interested to see, you know, it can be up to from probation on up what he gets, but especially if there's witness tampering, it's going.
Looks like we lost Suzette. Look, I mean, and I'm agreeing with her that it looks like it. If it comes down to witness tampering, we will certainly figure that out. But I don't think this is one of those cases, folks. I really don't think it is. Belinda, you checked in very quickly. You said, how can you, as the father, not instill civility in your son who was caught in another country with a deadly weapon? Also, how does this ranting change his outcome? Well, you know what? I think that if you are a parent, you know this. Your child is a different human being. We can teach them. They come from us. They come from our households. But at the end of the day, they're going to make their own decisions, right? And so because your child is a different human being, they think differently. They see themselves differently. They see the world around them differently. So I'm not going to beat up on the father in terms of, I wouldn't say that that the father didn't instill civility. Because somewhere along the line, Tory thought that, you know, carrying an unregistered gun was going to be acceptable, that he was either necessary for him or he just simply wanted to do it. But I think that if you are a decent parent, right, most decent parents want to instill in their child right and wrong principles, things that you should do to consider other people, all of those things, right? Somewhere children make separate choices. And even us, if you think about our relationships, Belinda, that we have with our parents, I'm sure that there were choices that you made that your parents told you not to make, and you made them anyway. Same thing for me. So it's I don't think it's to blame the father in that respect, saying that you should have instilled civility. They're going to make the children are going to make their own choices, regardless of whatever good guidance you may give them. So that is something that we got to keep in mind. And most importantly, I think that this was not a Megan Thee Stallion on trial, folks. This was Tory Lanez on trial, and how that situation went down with that firearm. This was not a Megan Thee Stallion trial. The unfortunate part about it is that she put herself in a trick bag with her conflicting statements and interviews and her testimony on the stand and all of those things. So her credibility looks bad. But at the end of the day, this was about a situation that could have been more fatal. All right, folks, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about how another NFL Hall of Famer is making his mark in Black college football. We're going to check in with our guy, Scotty. We're going to talk about Ed Reed and the big decision that he just decided to make. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, let's talk about what's happening in the sports world as another NFL Hall of Famer has decided to make his mark in the coaching space. I'm talking about former Baltimore Raven Ed Reed, who is by far one of the best players of the game of all time, folks. I'm talking about Mr. Ed Reed, who played for the Baltimore Ravens. He played for my team for 10 years, establishing himself as one of the great defenders in the league and in NFL history. He finished his career following his 2013 campaign. He has been, of course, he's been inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame, and he ranks 7th all time with 64 career interceptions and own NFL records for the most multi-interception games, 12, and most playoff interception, 9, which is tied for the record. He's a 9-time Pro Bowler and was part of the Hurricanes 2001 National Championship team down there in Florida. And so he has decided to take his talents and his experience and his expertise of football to Bethune Cookman College as the new head coach with their football program. Wow. Now, of course, Ed joins Deion Sanders and Eddie George of the Houston Oilers. And now you got Ed Reed is coaching a Black NFL Hall of Famer, now has decided to coach with another HBCU. What impact will this have on sports and the culture? We had to check in with my guy, Scotty, host of Off Script TV. You can check him out on all social media platforms. But Scotty, I appreciate you for checking in with us this afternoon. What do you make of this big decision here, bro? We got Scotty. There we go.
What's up?
What's up, Scotty? How you doing, brother?
Man, it's always good to be back, man. Listen, when I do, when your producer hit me up, she was like, you know what you want to talk about? I'm like, who wouldn't want to talk about Ed Reed? Like, talk about Ed Reed. Come on, man. I know.
Hey, look, I'm from Baltimore. He's one of my, and this is no joke, one of my favorite players. No, seriously. Ray Lewis was one, Ed Reed. Like, you could not get past the Ravens without those two guys. And, of course, T-Sizzle.
Yeah.
But Ed Reed was one of my, like, I enjoyed watching him play, bro. Like, he would be in the back in that secondary, and you were like, boy, if you throw that ball.
He gonna get it. He go, yeah, that boy a ball. And listen, I'm from Silver Spring, so shout out. I didn't know you was from Baltimore.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, listen, it's huge for the culture, bro. It's huge. Ed Reed, he's not as flashy as Deion and everything, but he's a savant. He loves the game. He's a grinder. He puts everything he had into the game, and I think he's gonna do that even so much as coaching. It's a great move for Bethune.
So how does this thing go? Because I think this is interesting, Scotty. You and I, we talked about this when the Deion Sanders news came out, that the impact of, Black Hall of Famers coming from the NFL possibly taking their skills to HBCUs. Now, is this going to be a growing trend, bro? Like, are we going to start to see more Black players saying, you know what, let me coach with the HBCU? Bethune Cookman, their record last season was 2-9.
Yeah.
2-9. Now with Ed Reed coming to the helm, does it change anything for them?
It does. I mean, first of all, it's in Florida. Okay, like you can turn around, trip and fall, and the dude with dreads that run a 4.3. It's Florida. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna get the talent, and what people don't understand, because a lot of people are coming new to the HBCU space. Bethune Cookman was a powerhouse 3 or 4 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So they're not too far. When they were in the MEAC before they came to the SWAC, they were a legit dominant team when they had Brian Jenkins there coaching. And so they're known for winning, even being a private institution. So it shouldn't be hard to him to restart this engine and get the talent with his name and his bravado coming down to Florida. And people got to understand that family, Ray, Warren Sapp, Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, like, they're going to fully support their guy and probably be around campus. And I'll tell you this, and I do think a trend is happening. I was on a Twitter Spaces, and Antonio Cromartie was on that same Spaces, and he said he would go help Ed if he called. He said that. And then he said if the Texas Southern job came open, because he's in Houston, he would want to take that job. So you are seeing an open trend of former NFL players looking for those positions and willing to take them.
So how does that fit in terms of what we saw with Deion Sanders? He put 2 years in, he's moved on to another university. Should the HBCU football community expect that you bring a big name to your football program or to your sports program, and they will only give you maybe 1 or 2 good years, and then they may move on? Is that a concern that you think that the HBCU sports community have?
I don't think they should, right? Because it's all about how you ingratiate yourself. If you come in saying you're the Messiah and then you try to dip, you know what I'm saying? Then they gonna give you the back.
Wait a minute, hold on, Scotty. Was that shade on Deion there?
Listen, I'm calling spade a spade. If you gonna come in, if
your voice get all pitched higher.
Listen, if you gonna come and talk about, you the change and you the change agent, I'm the agent of all that crap, you know what I'm saying? Then however you leave, if you don't leave a certain way, then you're gonna get kind of backlash. But if everybody else comes in and they say, listen, I'm here to win football games, I'm here to bring my experience to this campus and do whatever I can to bring said institution to a higher level to get recognized or whatever, then people are gonna be like, yeah, let's do that. You know what I'm saying? Whatever we can do to put us back on the map football wise, let's do that. And I don't think you'll have such the blowback that you'll get from a Deion Sanders and that. But it goes like this, right? Because somebody called into my show earlier today on some foolishness, on some Promet type stuff. And this is my thing. Nobody's Deion, okay? He's a one of one. But that's like saying Kobe Bryant was bad because he's not Michael. That's like saying LeBron is bad because he's not. No, everybody has their own greatness inside of them, right? So, yes, you might not be Dion, but you can be damn close. I'm sorry if I can't say the D word. I'm sorry. You can be
right. Bro, we say more than the D word on the show. Boy, that's child's play on the Black Star Network.
You know, so, you know, but you can get close to that level of accomplishments and greatness in your own right. And let's be real. Dion couldn't even win the biggest game of the year in HBCU football. So is he really that great? I mean, just being honest, you know what I'm saying? So it's that type of level. So I agree. I think that you will start seeing HBCUs kind of fold in this lane. But once again, when you come into this arena, you have to be able to bring resources. That's the key. I'm going to use, like, the way they try to pimp HBCUs, I'm pimping you the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like, because all they trying to do is get back to their alma maters or get to a Power 5 or whatever, which they feel they deserve to be there because of their formal NFL experience. But they don't have, you know, the white schools be like, hey, you ain't got the experience, just like any other job, right? So, you know, they come down to HBCUs. They're like, hey, we'll take you. You know what I'm saying? But as they take you, you need to get whatever you can. And I said on my channel, Bethune Cookman should have been selling merch yesterday. Do you hear me? They should have been selling. They should have been selling Ed Reed merch as soon as that Bama's name was announced. Bam. The next minute they dropping merch, because that's what you need to do to get your money back and get your resources. So, you know, we'll see.
It's interesting because now it's like you use the term pimping, but are we pimping ourselves at this point? You know what I'm saying? Like you got a black man who's bringing his skills to a black school to help black folks, but you know it still feels a little weird. Like it still feels like this is more of a business model rather than an institutional an institutional process, right? It feels like, okay, this is going to be a quick fix.
Yeah,
we're going to get our season. We're going to change our season. We're going to get some money for our football program. 2 to 3 years, we will be back on top, and then we move on to the next situation. We might get a coach, a much more quote unquote less famous coach, more just as qualified, but a little bit less famous in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, and that's why I agree. It's because you're not. It's like fixing a hole in the boat with, like, you know, caulk or, you know, just something to get by, because you're still getting water, but it's not going as fast. That's why, to me, I really wish Dion would have stayed and played the long game, because imagine this. Imagine Dion, imagine Hugh, imagine Ed Reed, and now you can start implementing infrastructure changes to the SWAC, right? He could have been the godfather of a SWAC new media era, to where now you're going to ESPN asking for $5 million per school. You know what I'm saying? So you're probably getting say about $60 million per year, 4 years. That's $240 million for the SWAC conference, because of the eyeballs, the excitement, and everything generated around that. And then you can go to the Celebration Bowl and say, hey, listen, guys, let's make a college football HBCU. Let's make a black college football playoff. Let's take the model they have for the New Year's Eve Bowl. Let's bring it down to us, and let's build that. See, that's infrastructure that changes schools' lives 5-10 years down the line. You see what I'm saying? So it's little things like that you need to implement and keep around, and rebuilding their infrastructure. So if Dion would have stayed and he could have implemented this new media era to where now they're getting real money from ESPN or Amazon or YouTube, Apple TV, you know what I'm saying? That's when you become like, hey, that's game changing. That's Messiah-ish. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. Hey, look, 30 seconds before we take our next pause, Scotty. Do you think that Ed Reed, do you think that any one of these guys, one of these Hall of Famers, are thinking about the long game?
I won't say Ed Reed is not, but I won't say he is at the same time. I think when as your parents say, you know, keep the main thing, or where your feet are landed at this moment, be in that present moment. So at the present moment, I think he's just trying to do what the best thing he can for Bethune-Cookman while he's there, and then whatever comes from that. But if he's not there for a long term, I can't get mad at him. If he is, I'll be happy. So it is what it is, because I'm gonna be right here covering the whole shebang.
Right. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue the conversation with Scotty. Let me bring back my sister Suzette Speaks, and she's in Florida, and see what kind of buzz is being created down there as Ed Reed is looking to take helm take the leadership role at Bethune Cookman, and of course, take some comments from you. Stay with us. The conversation continues right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about Hall of Famer Ed Reed, who formerly played for the Baltimore Ravens, my favorite team, how he has now decided to take the job as head coach of Bethune Cookman down in Florida, their football program, always repping Miami, the U. And talking about the implications that it has on football and the culture. Checking in, of course, with our sports contributor, host of Off Script TV, my man Scotty. And I want to bring back my sister Suzette Speaks, who is down in Florida as well. Suzette, how you feeling?
I'm so excited about this news. I have a couple of maybe different points of view on what Scotty just offered, if I may. I do not see this type of collaboration as any type of pimping, if you will. I think HBCUs are doing what they've always been designed to do, which is allow great Black talent a space to show what it can do when it can't get a voice or can't get a space at bigger so-called mainstream universities. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a win-win. When you look at what the students are getting from his experience, his exposure, his network, what the school is getting, hopefully in ticket sales and other paraphernalia, as Scotty mentioned, it's actually going to be very good. And I'm thinking about it in terms of what we've talked about over the last maybe intensely 3 or 4 years when it comes to the pipeline to the NFL. I think the only way we're going to get more Black coaches in the NFL is if they have training grounds like HBCUs to get their cred up and to find places where they can show they can win. Then I don't personally have a problem with them moving to other institutions, PWIs like a Deion Sanders. I think Mr. Sanders has already proved, coach has proved he is the trailblazer because there are people now coming behind him, following in his footsteps. I think he's opened the door. He's opened the conversation. And if it wasn't for him to sit and build the empire, I think that's okay. I give him space to go and do other things and to prove Black excellence elsewhere. But I do think there'll be others who will now have the opportunity because of what Deion Sanders did to show what they can do. And maybe they will be the legacy keepers at these institutions and want to stay there 5, 10, 15, 20 years if they can compensate them, if they can pay them adequately, as they are hopefully helping to grow the program. I'm excited for Bethune Cookman, one of the 4 HBCUs here in Florida, to get this type of talent. As Scotty pointed out, they've been a big deal for a while now. I think they'll get much more of that, which I say mainstream recognition that we see has had an impact when there has been these other former NFL players that come and kind of shine on light on those young guys so that they can be seen and they can get the opportunity to, to play, even after their collegiate careers. But I think of it as kind of symbiotic. I don't see it as one getting an advantage or quote unquote being pimped by another.
Can I?
Go ahead, Scotty.
A little pushback, Mrs.
Sure.
And I look at it like this, right? HBCUs are not the prize, and that's the problem for me, right? It's like if you were dating a guy and he said, hey, I'm gonna be with you for 2 years because I want to get a feel of what marriage is gonna be like, and then I go marry somebody else. You'd be like, yo, then why you Why you come hollering at me? You know what I'm saying? Because if that's what you really wanted, go work for that. And I think that's how I look at these coaches that come in. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, why isn't HBCU the prize? Because you giving your body and all that for your PWI, but when you come back to the PWI, they don't give you the opportunity. Let's be real. Ed Reed has built the University of Miami. Michael Irvin has built the University of Miami. All the black players that have come through there is no the University of Miami without black players. So why aren't they breeding grounds for some of the black players they've put in the NFL to come back to their institution and give back? They don't look at it the same. Yeah, I agree that HBCUs are that outlet, and they're that they give in black people the voice, but then they still don't end up being the prize. That's the issue. It's just a stepping stone to get where you really want to go, which is PWIs. And if you was in a relationship, nobody would want to get looked like that as a relationship, to where you're going to date me for 2 years to test to see if you're marriage material or if you can be faithful. And then once you find out you can be faithful, you know what? I'm gonna just go ahead and get this white girl. You know what I'm saying? It just don't make sense to me. So I get what you're saying about how HBCUs are an avenue for people to get voices, but I just don't like that they're not the prize. Like, what's wrong with being the prize of the HBCU? That's just my little pushback.
No, I love it. I love it. Suzette, you want to respond?
Well, I don't disagree with my brother. I do understand that. I can't explain or defend kind of like the structural barriers. The point that you've made is very well taken. Should have these opportunities. They do not. And again, there's implicit, let's call it bias. I might go as far as calling it racism. I'm not going to say it's that. But in the meantime, we have to have practical means for allowing people opportunities. So I don't disagree with you. But right. I don't think I can, you or I can say, because it's not that way, we shouldn't have this type of opportunities for folks who want to do some of that, kind of groundwork, self-development, coaching development, as well as helping the schools program develop and get stronger. But your point is well taken, brother.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my thing is I want us to hold accountability to PWIs, right? Because a lot of PWIs are built off the backs of black athletes. And now when these black athletes want to come back and coach at said institution, now that they don't have the experience, now they can't do anything for you. They can be a wide receiver coach, they can be a defensive analyst, but they can't run your institution. It's just a catch-22 for me. So I think that the standard should be held higher for PWIs, that people say, oh, they're there for the money. But we built you, then you can't give us the opportunity to coach, which but that's a
valid point.
Your point is well taken. I don't disagree with my brother. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a super valid point, bro. I mean, I think that a lot of times we don't have that level of conversation, especially with the community, and I'm saying with black folks in mass, about that, because we always do look at the HBCU as we regard the HBCU as a second thought, right? It's a cultural space. We love to take pride in it when it comes to certain times of the year, and HBCU. But at the end of the day, HBCUs are still struggling.
Yeah,
the academic programs are struggling. The sports programs are struggling. The enrollment now we have HBCUs have been around for over 100 years in this country now, and
some of them,
right? And we're just seeing within the past 2 years, as a result of George Floyd, where there were more students that have enrolled in HBCUs than they have in all of its history. More black students too. So we have to bring HBCUs in the conversation. I'm happy that like Ed Reed and Coach Prime, and they're bringing the HBCUs in the conversation. Here's my concern, though. Can the sports program save an HBCU?
Listen, the athletics is the front porch to any institution, right? Nobody's going to the University of Alabama for chemistry. Okay, they're going there.
Well, why not?
No, it's not really why they're going though.
I'm just asking, right? Like when we think now, like for example, when you think of your Ivy League schools, right?
That's different.
I get it. I'm just saying.
They don't care about sports.
How do we push those institutions like our HBCUs in a space where they're not just sports, that sports aren't just the front porch, but the academics and other programs. Like, for example, in Baltimore, we had Morgan State University, right? National treasure. Everybody knows that Morgan is about engineering. I mean, look, I like Morgan sports as well, but Morgan sports don't work. Scotty,
I'm from Maryland. I don't know about national treasure now, but go ahead. Go ahead. Boy,
that's how it was designated, bro.
That part.
No, I'm serious. Go check the record. It is designated as a national treasure. But my point is, can we at least elevate the space where HBCUs are seen differently, so that they can get the type of not just the money but the respect? I think producing both athletes and scholars at the same time.
I think academically, anybody who really know, I think there's a stat that says like 60% of Black professionals come from HBCUs. Your judges, your lawyers, your doctors. Most of those come from HBCUs. And I know a lot of HBCUs, they call their schools white at night. A lot of programs send their kids to, a lot of PWIs send their kids to programs for their masters and all that at HBCUs. So that's why they call it white at night. But for me, you still where interest is always going to be drawn. I know the research dollars and all the R1 institutions that get money for research, but to get the interest of your program is usually always through the front door of athletics. That's how Alabama grew, exponentially when it comes to enrollments and money and student fees. Is because of the championships that they were winning at the University of Alabama, and they started getting those outside kids or out of state kids to come to Alabama.
That's a great point. Karen checked in. My sister Karen checked in Suzette and says, Suzette, 100, we have to create and grow within our spaces in order to be elevated into other spaces. Other spaces have greater opportunities and compensation. That is the way it is. Karen, Suzette, you want to respond to Karen's?
Karen that goes for corporate. That goes for other kind of programs where we're kind of within a kind of incubator-like scenario when we go to these places that are safe spaces for us to mess up, make mistakes, try new things, be innovative, also be coached and developed as well. There are very high expectations when you come to these PWIs when it comes to winning games. You got to be prepared and you got to be ready. I don't disagree with my brother that they should also value the talent that built them, basically, and allow them opportunities. But as we said, I think there are structural barriers there in how people perceive who the head coach should be and what he or she should look like. On top of that, I do think we just have to kind of embrace when people are stepping up to the plate to support our HBCUs. It's really mentally how we perceive ourselves. So how we talk about the alumni support, are you buying tickets to the games? Are you writing checks, to help balance out, the cost of all these program building expenses? It is really important so that we kind of change in the public dialogue how HBCUs are seen, perceived, respected among ourselves. And then the majority culture kind of picks up on those cues from us.
Absolutely. Hey, Scotty, we got about like 30 seconds, bro. So what do we make of this? And I want to go back to the ideas that you shared in the earlier part of the conversation in terms of infrastructure, building the infrastructure, and how these Black coaches can be instrumental in creating an infrastructure where, not just building up their sports programs, but really building the infrastructure to create greater interest in these schools all around. As the community, how should we move forward with this? Should we be celebratory, or should we be like, okay, now let's put some demands on these Hall of Famers?
I always feel like they're going to get you in rooms you couldn't get in by yourself. You know what I'm saying? It's no different than, if I was walking with Roland and Roland takes me into a room I couldn't get into by myself because he's Roland Martin. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with Ed Reed. It was the same thing with Dion. It's even the same thing with Hugh Jackson. You have to start using these people to put you in position in rooms that you weren't able to get before. You wouldn't be able to have a direct conversation with Steve Bisciotti from the Baltimore Ravens owner, who's worth $6 billion. You know what I'm saying? To give his advice or give him a donation to your institution or whatever, or give you another guy or name that you could talk to for your media or anything like that. It's little things like that you got to start using the guys that come to your institution, their resources. That's why I always say you want to hire people that can gave you resources that you wouldn't be able to get by yourself. Because let's be real, it always takes somebody, right? We've all got into a position of power or elevated with somebody's help. You know, a lot of people can't really say they did it by themselves. It was just like, hey, somebody reached out to me, somebody helped me out, somebody looked out for me. So it's the same thing when you start hiring Ed Reeds and Deion Sanders and Hugh Jacksons. We're looking out for you, right? You want the opportunity to coach. You want the opportunity to show what you can do. Now you got to come back and look out for us. And what's that mean? Hey, let's get in a room where we couldn't get in before and you negotiate, or we bring the right people in here and we negotiate some deals and stuff like that. That's just how I look at it.
Absolutely. Scotty, my guy, my sports contributor here on The Culture. You can check him out on Off Script TV, on IG, and all social media.
Hey, can I do one thing before I go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey.
Let's do that. She know what it is.
Everybody know that march. Everybody get that march.
That's why I love Scotty, man. Scotty, my guy, thank you so much, bro, for being on and talking to us. Appreciate you.
Right,
appreciate y'all.
All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's have some more conversation. Stay with us. We got a lot to talk about here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm a little bit upset at my culture crew member, Suzette Speaks, right now.
Farajii. Farajii, I tried to watch it last night, but I didn't get but through one more episode. Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it.
All right, so here's what I was going to talk about today, folks.
We can still talk about it, just not the ending.
Hold on, Suzette. I have to set this up now.
Sorry.
So I wanted to get Suzette and give you folks an opportunity to kind of sound off. And what do you think of The Best Man? Since this has become a cultural phenomenon, this show has reignited our love for these characters that we have come to grow with and have come to love over these past 20 years. And now with Peacock's new limited series, 8 episodes, The Best Man, the final chapters have hit the screens. And I will say, the verdict is in, Suzette. This is a hit.
Yay. It's phenomenal.
Now, look, I'm not going to. Now, Suzette just shared with me, y'all. I haven't finished all of it, Farajii.
I watched 3.
So cool. I get it. Not going to put no spoilers out. But I at least want to take the time to acknowledge the great work of creator Malcolm Lee and the phenomenal cast of Morris Chestnuts, Taye Diggs, Nia Long, so many others, Terrence Howard. I mean, these folks decided to come back together, recreate the chemistry that we have all come to love and know, and decided to put together a storyline, a plot line that is like no other. Check out the trailer. If you have not taken time to see it, make sure y'all check it out. Check out the trailer for The Best Man, the final chapters. Here it is.
Fellas, I'm getting married.
It's gonna be just like old times. Only better, right? Better.
Hollywood has come a-calling. They want to make unfinished business into a movie.
Our carefree college days on full display. I love it.
That book caused a lot of drama.
Get your popcorn ready.
But you need a change of scenery. So come with us to Quinn's wedding. It's guaranteed to put a smile on your face.
Think about it. You need to find something you're passionate about. Redefine your purpose.
I thought you found your purpose with that perfume commercial.
Always in my playbook. Always in my playbook. Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
We all make mistakes. And you gotta live with the consequences.
I know what it's like to be a tired, overworked, exhausted mom.
Wait, don't you have like 3 nannies?
It takes a village.
Life doesn't always go the way we expect, but if we're lucky, we end up where we're supposed to.
We're actually really looking forward to some husband and wife time.
Yes, we are.
Are you two gonna have sex? What's sex?
A really yummy dessert.
Ooh, then can I have sex?
Okay.
Do you know who I want to play me?
Who?
Beyonce. Get your coins together, brother.
You got some homework to do, Suzette. You got some homework to do, ma'am.
Listen, I cannot wait to do it. I see Belinda in the chat. Me too, girl. I'm on episode 3.
All right,
I
so
was supposed to finish it, but it was so good so far. I'm enjoying it
so far. Folks have been raving about this, and it's very interesting to see the type of interest that this show has generated. Of course, you know, a lot of people are already talking awards. People are already saying that they want another set of episodes. I mean, it's just crazy how this situation has blown up. Miss AKA Lady, you said you love the wardrobe, may tune in just for hair and fashions. Let me tell you something. The hair and fashion is on point.
That's real.
But I think the big thing that works, and I think to you know, Suzette, you can tell me so far what you think. I think the big thing that works is the writing and the scenarios. Like, these seem to be much more relatable characters in the sense of modern day America, right? Like where we are as Black people and where the culture is. What do you think of it so far?
I love when there are pieces of work like this that just show the complexity of the Black experience, where I can watch it and I am kind of immersed in these folks who are just trying to figure out their lives, enjoy their journey, love one another, help one another heal, figure out life together. And their Blackness is almost secondary to just their life experience. They're just enjoying and living life and figuring out life. So far with the characters, I like how they are much they were always complex, but much more complex, where there's nobody who is completely perfect like us in real life. They have these vices or these shortcomings or these imbalances in their love lives and their careers and their personal lives that are reflective of like universal struggle. We as human beings oftentimes are kind of two-ness is real, where we're trying to be good people. We're trying to do the best we can by our families, our friends, our kids, whoever. And then there's always this struggle of kind of like pulling away from that, or life challenges that take us away from that. So far it is really sexy. I will say that. I was like, did I remember how sexy the best man was? I mean, I was like clutching pearls a couple times. I was like, oh, okay, we starting out like this. Okay. All right. Best man. I forgot. So it's definitely not for the kiddos.
Did Morris and Tay, did they always?
I was like, okay, they still got it. Shout out to Morris Chestnut. I was like, oh, this is how we start now. Okay. Very interesting plot twist. But yeah, I think it is still indicative of what life can be like, when art imitates real life, where people are, in these complex situations that look great from the outside, but on the inside, you're slowly dying, or you slowly have this pain that's unresolved and you're trying to figure it out. So far, I mean, again, fashion, hair, all of that. Yes, the ladies look fabulous. I was like, dang, y'all putting pressure on grown women looking this good. I'm like,
let me just say this.
Are tattooing in this whole film. I kept saying, damn, what's going on?
I have to say,
beauty on display.
Let me tell you, Suzette, I have to say, like, I follow like Nia Long on social media. I follow Regina Hall. I follow like when you look at Sanaya, Regina, and Nia, and even Melissa D'Souza, right? Like I call them like the Fabulous 50 Club, because you would not believe that these women are 50 years old.
Flawless. I'm talking about them close-ups too.
I mean, I'm talking about like when I looked at Nia Long, I was like,
yes.
Like Nia.
That what they say.
I mean, I thought you were beautiful when you were Fresh Prince, but damn, you still.
They are styled to the T. Just the fashions alone, I'm like, yes.
Right. And I think there's something about it. I mean, there has been an article that was written about the fact that for this the women characters got more screen time. You see a lot more focus on their personal lives. The character development, as you mentioned, Suzette, is a little bit more in depth for the women characters. So the story is not just about the friendship of four men. It's about the friendship of these women as well in their lives. And so I think that it speaks volumes about where we are in Black America. I mean, yes, they have these flaws and they have these things, but there's a certain level of proudness that you can have about this level of Black excellence. Now, I'm going to be honest with y'all. Some Black shows and Black films turn me off because it's like either we're depicted in media as being a part of the hood, that hood life, and that's part of our story, right? But then on the other side, we are uber rich.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We're like pulling up.
In actuality, most of us are middle class. So.
Right. Right.
What about us? What about us?
Like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So the plot line is a little bit more believable. I can see a Taye Diggs character becoming a Pulitzer Prize winning writer. Right. You know what I'm saying? I can see, okay, they want to turn his book into a movie. I can see all of the characters' growth and evolution, because that's always been a big turnoff, especially in telling Black stories. Black stories, it's not like we want it to be so fantastical that it's almost unreachable and unattainable, and you just don't connect to it.
Yeah,
and
like so Black bourgeois.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like they're not. They're professors. They're writers. Of course, Morris Chestnut character. He's a coach, trying to get back into the NFL. The whole thing, like, these are believable things, but it's still like, there's some level of Black excellence, but it's not Black excellence that's unattainable Black excellence.
No, I think it's actually pretty realistic, because I think I like the way it allows grown folks to be doing what grown folks do, which is attain success over time. I think in the Black community, we have a lot of success stories of like early success, and maybe even in American culture in the broader sense, where we are overemphasizing success before like 25 or 30, when the majority of humankind gets their success with time, like after 30, like after 40, like closer to 50, when you start figuring out yourself and this thing called life and how it works. So I think that kind of realization of putting like really grown folk, I'll tell you this is introducing it to a whole new generation, because I was getting my hair did and I was watching my episodes with my hair stylist who's in her 20s, and you know how she referred to Taye Diggs? I was like, yeah, you remember from Best Man 1? And she's like, no, he be dancing with Omarion Baby Mama on TikTok. And I'm like, there's a whole generation that only knows Taye Diggs by him dancing with, I think her name is April from TikTok, and has no clue these characters even existed. It was shocking to me when I was trying to explain to her who Morris Chestnut was, that she didn't know. So I was like, wow, this is also kind of a generational introduction to these characters for people who didn't grow up, or just, just passed, maybe 10 years after, came of age, and didn't know about this movie. So I think that's exciting to have a whole new kind of awakening within different generations about this movie and its characters.
I think, and as we wrap up, and I'm gonna give you another week, but
thank you.
As we wrap up with this conversation, I mean, I think that I'm really, really happy about the success, and more importantly, the reception that people have given the show. It's very, very hard. Let me just tell y'all, folks, if it is very hard to create Black movies and shows about love, life in a very positive way, even in 2022. It's very, very hard. And I'm talking about hard in terms of Hollywood saying we're going to greenlight this project.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's still, like, we might love it, but it doesn't always bring in the money. It doesn't always bring the prestige and the acclaim that it deserves. And so, if you don't believe me, ask Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's still very hard. So to see this show put out the way it was put out, I'm glad they did it as a limited series instead of another movie, because there's so much story to be told. And so, Suzette, I'm not going to spoil it, but trust and believe these next 5 episodes, you are going to enjoy it. But I'm just saying, I'm happy about how people have received this show. And it looks like this is a situation that's going to end out on top. And it's so good for the culture. Like, at the end of the day, it's all good for the culture. And I'm all about Black love, family, Black relationships and friendships. I'm all about this. This is good for the culture. It's a great way to end the year. And I'm happy that we got this little gift right here. Suzette, what's your final take on it?
Yes, can't wait to unwrap it. I'll be watching y'all. No spoilers. Thank you.
I'm going to be texting you.
Real quick, before we go, I just wanted to say a quick rest in power to the loss of the son of Stephen Marley, grandson of Bob Marley. Yes. Joseph Mercer Marley, also known as Joe Mercer. I had the pleasure of meeting him, introducing him at a local reggae show, Caribbean Rum Festival back in 2019. Met this man, early 30s, just on the brink of, greatness. And so we lost him. Details are still unfolding as to why and how he passed, found in a car unresponsive, but more details to come, but just praying for his family. And I just, wish them well in their time of loss. And then y'all, please, on a different note, check me out. YouTube, I got a channel y'all can subscribe to. Please go and find me. Just look up Suzette Speaks. I talk about a ton of things. Saturday, I'll be talking about the worst Christmas gifts you've ever gotten. I cannot wait, because I got a couple, and I ain't going to say who gave them to me, but we do pop culture like here. We do, self-improvement, relationships every now and then. But please come over to the Suzette Speaks channel and subscribe. Thank you.
There it is right there. My sister Suzette Speaks, always done a phenomenal job in so many different spaces. You can find her on her YouTube show, and certainly you can find her here on The Culture every Wednesday. And we're so happy to have you as one of our strong voices, Culture Crew voices. Suzette, thank you so much for being on today.
Everybody. Thank you.
God willing, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. See you next week.
Until next year. So, I hope you be safe and have a prosperous and peaceful transition into the new year. But thank you, Suzette.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. I thank each and every one of you. Man, thank my guy Scotty for checking in to talk about Ed Reed. And I cannot thank my team enough. Joe's, my man King Keenan, Ariel, and my crew in the control room. Thank you. Make sure y'all do your due diligence. Go to our website, blackstarnetwork.com, where you can support the Black Star Network, and more importantly, you can support Black media like never before. You can check out all the great content. You can check out all the wonderful programming that we have on this show. Not just the culture, but you can talk about Get Wealthy and so many other dynamic shows on the show. Also, Roland has a new interview that he does with Sally Richardson Whitfield. And he sits down with her for Rolling with Roland. So a lot of great content is on Black Star Network. Make sure y'all support us financially and share the content and sign up for the app for free and download the app on all of your devices. Also follow us on social media at Black Star Network as well. Also follow me, yours truly, Farajii Muhammad. Follow me on Instagram at The Real Farajii and on Twitter at Farajii. Would love to connect with you, continue to build. Folks, I thank each and every one of you. We're going to bring in some new Culture Crew members starting next year. Got a lot of great plans and great ideas. So I'm going to be tapping folks. And I see you, Culture Crew. I see my online Culture Crew. I'm going to be tapping you. I'm going to just recruit you and bring you on. I see you. So we're going to have some new voices and new faces. But we got a couple of days left before the end of this year. So make sure y'all tune in tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered, RMU. And as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.